Torvald led us through the trees on a trail only he could see. Occasionally he would turn and encourage us. "Das way." Despite Torvald's heavy burden, Elidar and I fell further and further behind in the deep snow. At sundown, when the light no longer scattered like handfuls of gems hidden among the drifted snow, Elidar called for a halt. "We'll get no further this eve. Better to camp until morning." It took only moments for the old man to unfurl his fantastic tent. I climbed inside with a thankful sigh, glad to rest my thighs and warm my fingers. I used a tea light to illuminate Elidar's tent, cutting away part of the plastic cover so it fit within the slanted walls of my planned structure. I reconstructed the tea light with hot glue. The tent will be 3 inches long, or 15 feet in the scale I use for Dungeons & Dragons. It needs 3 long poles, so I cut 3 toothpicks to a length of 3 inches. A diagonal support at 45 degrees requires a length of 1.4 inches and just a little bit more, so I used 1.5 inches. Cross pieces of 2 inches will give the tent a width of 10 feet in Dungeons & Dragons scale. I used a piece of leftover cardstock to make a more solid base within which to anchor the tea light. I traced the tea light and cut a hole to fit. Then hot glued the tea light in. More hot glue for the uprights and diagonals. this is a little tricky. The two crossbeams at the base seem unnecessary, but they give the tent a nice rounded shape at the end. They will also help hold in the tent stakes I plan to add later. The frame is done. Now to add the canvas.
And there's 15 gold pieces.
Yeah, that's awesome. A paper towel is strong and gives a nice texture to the tent. For a smoother texture, consider using toilet paper.
And there's 15 gold pieces. And there's 15 gold pieces. And there's 15 gold pieces. And there's 15 gold pieces.
I water down my white glue in a 50-50 ratio so it soaks into the paper towel nicely. I fold the ends over like a present to make flaps for the door at the end of the tent. More watered down glue will hold this part in place. I pierce the corners of the tent with the leftover ends of toothpicks. These will be my tent stakes.
And
this until it dries, but a clamp will do the job. After a rainy backpacking trip, it's important to let your tent dry out before putting it away. The same holds true here, but in this case, it's important to wait for the glue to dry so that the tent is strong. Use a knife and scissors to cut off the excess paper towel. The tent needs to sit flat on terrain, or it'll look funny. And now I can confirm that the tea light shines through the paper towel. Yeah, that's awesome. My purpose with the first color is to cause the light to scatter out as it comes through the canvas, and also to obscure the poles within the tent. I want their shape to show, but not their color. I have designed some runes to use in my game, along with some of my players. My plan is to paint less paint where the runes will be so that the light will shine more brightly through those runes than the rest of the tent canvas. I start with painting each rune with a very pale blue, made mostly of white and just a little bit of blue craft paint. The highly textured paper towel, while it looks cool, is difficult to paint, so I change my plan on the shape of the runes quite a bit as I go along with this painting. Now I use a slightly darker blue, still very light, to outline each rune. The door flaps should have runes as well. color scheme of purple with glowing blue runes on the purple. I've used it with my wizard Elidar before, and because this is Elidar's tent, I want to stick with that color scheme. To transition to purple, I mixed my light blue with my purple. Finally, it's time for a deep purple, the base color of the entire tent. To emphasize the texture on the paper towel tent, I use a dry brushing technique in which I use a lighter shade of purple, made by mixing purple with white, and I use a small amount of it on the brush so that it only sticks to the highest points of the paper towel. The tent is still too plain looking, so I use some bronze paint to paint more runes along the edges of the fabric. Two decorative beads glued to the protruding points of the vertical frame members will give the tent a nice finished and substantial feel. Finally, the 4 tent stakes need to be substantial as well, and so I paint them silver to match the beads. The 3 of us stayed up late into the night talking. I was content to listen to the 2 strange men tell far-fetched fairy tales and ghost stories. I must have dozed off, for light cast shadows across the tent's canvas. I thought it morning. "Someone is upon us," said Torvald, standing. "We should have set watch." He drew a sword from the pile of gear he had dropped on entering the tent. Elidar reached for his staff. The light grew brighter.